Bosnia and Herzegovina went through hell. Terror and evil ruthlessly charged through. As snipers shot at heads and grenades fell, the lives of Bosnians took on a dark view. Explosions were heard down every street and shook homes with their enormous power. So many people did not have anything to eat. The tragedy of these events made them dour. My father was shot in his ankle by a Chetnik, and my mother was 2 inches away from death. I could have easily become an orphan and suffered endlessly until my last breath. Why did it have to come to this? Didn't Bosnian children deserve a chance to grow up and have memories instead of watching monsters dance? My grandmother was almost shot dead. Snipers proudly aimed right for her head. The world watched us lay in our own blood as Serbian forces threw our bodies in the mud. They chopped off heads of Bosnian children and thrust them directly onto a knife, so that their mothers felt the unbearable pain of having lost the meaning to their life. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. People were lit on fire. Little girls were raped. Pregnant women had their stomachs stabbed. This is how Chetnik minds were shaped. This is how they ensured our mouths were taped. A blind eye was turned by the West. They could have done more to stop the hate. I'm grateful that President Joe Biden spoke the truth and tried to do something to change Bosnia's fate. We didn't know where to go or what to do. You could die outside or inside your house. Every Bosnian civilian's heart knows how they had to walk on the edge of their toes. Their destiny could change in a single moment. Their spouse and children could all be gone. Nobody's life has value in an experience like war. Nobody knows what tomorrow has in store. My grandfather risked his life every single week to bring me food so that I would not starve. His actions saved me, and now I have the need to speak about how war criminals wanted to reach their peak. Every hour was packed with intense worry. Panic and pain took over the thoughts of little ones. They wondered whether their family would survive. They questioned whether evil would continue to thrive. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. We assumed that someone would come and save us. from the sadistic torture of Chetnik animals. But it seemed that our hope was the wrong assumption, and many countries lacked the fortitude and gumption to stand for justice, truth, and what was ethically right, to take a stand against evil and put up a valiant fight. Bosnians had no choice but to fend for themselves, watching the constant struggle between darkness and light. Countless people were traumatized beyond belief. They were just looking for a way to escape from the mountains of intense sorrow and grief, so that their suffering would become brief. Children lost their arms, legs, and eyes, while foreign governments fed us blatant lies. Bodies laid on the street frozen to death, while some foreign teenagers took crystal meth. We were trapped. We were completely caged. Some of my mother's good friends were raped. This is what went on while war and genocide raged. Our dignity, identity, and layers of skin were scraped. For some, their childhood began in World War II, and old age ended with the Bosnian War. They tried to run from their horrible past. They tried to make their heartache pass by fast. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. This is the price of nationalism and fear. These are the voices of Sarajevo. Bosnians lost everything they held dear. The three-finger salute was flashed by Serbs to signify their hatred and nationalistic pride. They shot at us repeatedly until we died. We cried over and over again. We couldn't even hide. Why were so many painful tears shed? Why were so many babies not fed? Why did Serbs have to throw darts? Why were Bosnian bodies torn into parts? I barely escaped Sarajevo in one piece. Chetniks looked directly at my mother. They were eager to kill us like mice. She saw their evil eyes as cold as ice. They wanted to ensure our extinction. They wanted to plan our demise. But despite their ammunition, we were strategic, clever, and wise. Imagine being in a situation like that. What would you do? What would you think? How would you deal with the intensity of being afraid to even blink? Think about people that mattered to you most. What if they became like a distant ghost? What if all your friends, family, and favorite things suddenly became birds with clipped wings? Please remember the heroes of the Bosnian War, like Izzet Nanic, Safet Hadžić, and Mehdin Hodzić, who bravely ventured into situations that were unknown, risking their safety in the middle of a war zone. Sing this powerful song for everyone to hear. Sing so that the stories of Bosnians are clear and loud. Pound your fists on the table and declare that justice must be firm, strong, and proud.